This happened 4 years ago on Halloween. I was sitting on the sofa in my apartment, relaxing with my laptop, waiting for kids to come knock on my door as I usually did, being too old to trick-or-treat, but not a fan of parties. However, this year I just moved to a new apartment which was farther away from the larger homes I lived near before, and few kids seemed to be in the area. One of the reasons was that it was an apartment complex for single guys and was far enough from my college that people who lived here had to drive to school. Still, I had a small bucket of candy prepared as usual, which I had been sneaking from. The apartment on both sides of me are usually quiet. Nobody lives in the apartment above mine. So far, evening was just hours of silence and occasional music from my laptop. It was almost 7 and still not a single person had come by for a candy. I suddenly realized that I might have left the outside light off. I wasn't used to my apartment yet, so I opened the door and looked outside to check. It was off. No wonder nobody came by. I flipped the switch on and looked back outside to see if people were there. I couldn't see anyone walking around, but it was dark and the complex was large, so I didn't think much of it. I closed the door and started walking back to the sofa. Knock, knock, knock. That was fast, I thought. I walked back to the sofa, stopped the music playing on my laptop and picked up the bowl of candy, then walked back and opened the door. A young dark-skinned boy, probably around 10 years old at most, stood there by himself, with what looked like white flour sprinkled all over the top of his body. He was wearing a SpongeBob shirt, I remember, and didn't seem to be in a costume, nor dressed unusually, except for the white flower on his short hair and on his forehead. He didn't say trick-or-treat, but he looked up at me and seemed irritated for some reason. "Can I use your bathroom?" His voice was monotone, almost like he was trying to fake a robot voice. I smiled, a bit shocked that my first visitor was this kid and he didn't even want any candy. "Sure, but be quick." He ran inside past me and closed the bathroom door, locking it behind him. I decided to keep the front door open and stand next to it while I waited for him to finish, holding the bowl of candy while looking to see if anyone else would come toward my apartment. 10 minutes later and nobody had come by, and the boy was still in the bathroom. Knock, knock, knock. "Are you okay?" There wasn't an answer, but I could hear him walking around behind the door. The water faucet turned a tiny bit. It was just streaming softly. I waited by the door. 2 minutes later, and the water was still running. My front door was open and it was dark outside, except for the glow from my porch light. Knock, knock, knock. Can you come out for a second? I started worrying if the boy was alright, or if he was playing some kind of prank. After all, it was Halloween. Knock, knock, knock. I'm opening the door. I knew it was locked, but I tried wiggling the handle to see if maybe it would budge. The water was running, but I couldn't hear anything else from behind the door. Knock, knock, knock. "Can you open the door? I need to use the bathroom," I said, using that as an excuse. I was starting to panic a little inside. Maybe he was hurt? Knock, knock, knock. No answer. Now I'm worrying. I rammed my shoulder into the door once, wondering if what I see people doing crime dramas really works or not. It really hurt. I tried it again, and again, and again. I tried kicking the door. At this point I'm freaking out. The bathroom didn't have a key, so there was no way of opening it. "I'm calling the police!" Actually, I was worried that the police would even show up on a reasonable amount of time on Halloween. I called them anyway and they said they were in the neighborhood and could be right over. While they drove over, I explained on the phone what was going on. When they arrived, I ran outside and unlocked the complex gate, then followed them back into my apartment. The 2 officers arrived, had the water running and started kicking the door. One of them had a crowbar, but they didn't need to use it. My cheap wooden bathroom door was open in a few solid kicks. It shot open, spraying paint dust and wood chips everywhere. The first thing I saw when the door opened was the water faucet still running. Then I saw both of the officers pull out their radios at the same time and enter the bedroom. I ran up behind them to see what had happened, but the officers' figures were blocking the view. "Oh boy," I heard one of them say. Now I was freaked out. I couldn't talk. I was already uncomfortable in my new apartment. I didn't want to have a memory of finding a dead boy in my bathroom. Both officers were shuffling around in the bathroom. Then they stepped out and put their radios away. They just looked out at me sternly, and then one of them sighed. "I'm not sure what to say. I'm going to let you off with a warning because it's Halloween." My mind was filled with nothing but confusion and fear. I couldn't even look back at the officers after seeing their expression. "I'll have one of our guys give you a call tomorrow to discuss this. For now, don't be calling us up anymore tonight." Then they walked out of the front door. One of them turned back to look at me and left the door open. In my panic, I ran into the bathroom. The floor was covered with tiny white wood chips from the door. The faucet was off. I didn't even realize the officers had turned it off. Nothing was there. Nothing else was touched. The next morning, I got a call from a woman. I was certain while I answered the phone I was going to be in trouble, but what followed shocked me. "I was going to call you in regards to prank phone calling this morning, but after reading the report the police gave me, I am not too surprised this happened in the first place," was what I heard. This is the apartment manager, by the way. I had the same call from someone in the apartment 5 years ago for a similar thing. Maybe you can ask the police about more details, but simply put, when we used to be a family housing, a boy died in that bathroom 7 years ago. They say he drowned in the bathtub. I couldn't say anything. Happened 7 years ago, and after they left, the next residents called the police a couple years later, saying that they heard a boy locked up in the bathroom and they wanted us to come up. When we got there, it was empty. So, it was a ghost, was all I could ask. I'm not saying anything. I don't know about all that. I'm just saying it's not the first time. But the whole bathroom been remodeled completely since then. It was a long time ago. The call continued, and we talked about some other things, mostly unrelated to the event of previous night. I hung up and was feeling a bit shaken. Nothing else happened that day. I decided I'd better call someone to fix the door. The apartment manager told me she'd pay for it, then jokingly told me not to let any more kids use it. I tried as hard as I could to smile over the phone. The next day the repair company came by. They called me on the cell phone and I jogged outside to let them. Right then, it felt like my insides were hit with a rock. I suddenly remembered that my apartment complex had a gate. Nobody without a key could enter. No wonder there were no people trick-or-treating in my apartment. It was a singles apartment, no kids lived there, and no kids could have entered.